School life was going well. At least, that's what Shun kept telling himself. The classes were easy. He already knew most of what they taught. When boredom became unbearable, he practiced raising his skill levels discreetly. Academically, everything was golden. But socially, that was a different story entirely. Being royalty came with problems. No matter how much he encouraged people to relax around him, citizens of his kingdom couldn't help acting reserved. Nobles from other countries struggled to speak casually. Only other royalty or a duke's heir could approach him as equals. And among those, several were just trying to curry favor. Fortunately, Katia took care of them quickly. Between his royal status and the magic incident, Shun found himself feeling lonely. Hugo, meanwhile, had picked up quite a following since that lesson. Nearly half the boys in their year now supported him. He was becoming their self-appointed leader, just like in his previous life. And just like in that life, Shun did his best to avoid getting involved with that group. It was obvious Hugo regarded him as an enemy. There was no point trying to befriend someone who already hated him. So Shun mostly spent time with Katia, Sue, Faye, and now Yuri. Yuri was intense. Yurin Ulan, formerly Hasebe, had been abandoned as a baby and raised by the church. The followers of the Word of God, one of the most widespread human religions, taught that raising skills brought you closer to hearing God's voice. The Word of God, what Shun recognized as system messages, was something everyone in this world heard, but only Yuri treated it as truly divine. Shun, your skills are quite high, are they not? Let us continue to raise our skills that we might hear the Word of God in plenty. Shun, you can use appraisal, can you not? If you should ever see someone with a skill called taboo, tell me at once. There is no reason to let such an individual live. It is our holy duty to slay them. Promise me. Shun, today one of my skills leveled up, and I heard God's voice. Ah, the divine voice of God has spoken to me. Today is sure to be a blessed day. Shun couldn't handle it. Her eyes glazed over when she talked about God, taking on a fervent gleam that made him deeply uncomfortable. She hadn't been like this before, just an ordinary high school girl. The terror of reincarnation, waking as a baby in a strange world. The despair of abandonment, left to fend for herself. The anxiety of living surrounded by incomprehensible customs and language. Given all that, it wasn't surprising that the Word of God, speaking in their dearly missed language of Japanese, would bring her comfort, not to mention being surrounded by people who worshipped that voice. It might have been inevitable that she'd latch onto the teachings of the followers of the Word of God like a life raft and never let go. Still, getting obsessed to the point of becoming a candidate for sainthood seemed extreme, and she wouldn't stop proselytizing. Her way of saying hello was asking, "Have you opened your heart to the Word of God?" Sue would swoop in furiously to fend Yuri off. Then Kasia would arrive to mediate. The cycle had become routine. Katia herself had encountered Yuri in a more awkward setting. In the girls' changing room, Yuri had questioned why Ushima was changing with them. "It's been so long, I don't even think about it anymore," Katia had explained. "But if it bothers you, I can change somewhere else. I guess I didn't expect you to respond so calmly. I don't really feel anything about girls' bodies since being reincarnated. Since I was reborn into a duke's family, I've had maids helping me change and bathe since I was a baby. I got over being embarrassed pretty quickly." Yuri had seemed both sympathetic and envious of that noble upbringing. Then, inevitably, she tried converting Katia to the followers of the Word of God. "That's why you should join us, Ushima. God sees everything, you know. As long as you follow God's voice, all will be well." Katia had politely declined, citing family religious obligations. Yuri seemed genuinely feminine to Katia now, which made Katia wonder if Shun saw her the same way. The thought was more troubling than it should have been. Sue, meanwhile, was acting strange herself. She wanted to ask Shun something, but didn't know how to bring it up. Katia had warned him. She tried to ask me about our relationship. She probably guessed something was strange when she saw us talking with Ms. Oka in Japanese. "Whatever you decide," Katia had said, "you'd better be ready to fully commit to your response." Shun still hadn't decided. Tell Sue the truth? They were siblings, but his previous life had nothing to do with her. Would she still see him as her brother once she knew? Would she resent that he'd had the advantage of his past memories while growing up? The thought of lying hurt too. But if he lied now, he'd have to lie forever. Miss Oka remained enigmatic as always. She'd vanish for long periods, then casually attend class. When Shun asked about Kyoya, a friend he and Katya had been particularly close to in their past lives, she dodged his questions. She clearly knew something, but wouldn't share. Everyone had changed so much in this world. Yuri was a religious fanatic. Hugo's ego had intensified, his desire for the spotlight running unchecked. Miss Oka seemed to be losing her grip. "Katya, promise me you won't change," Shun said one day, the words slipping out unexpectedly. He was afraid. If even Katya changed from the Kanata he knew, what would he have left? Having Katya here to keep him connected to his previous life had played a huge role in his ability to remain stable. Far below the school, deep in the great Elro labyrinth, a small spider was about to discover something wonderful. Since heresy resistance had evolved into heresy nullification, maybe detection wouldn't hurt anymore? The skill used heresy attacks. That pain so strong it busted through pain mitigation couldn't be normal. If she could cancel out those attacks now, maybe she could actually use detection properly. It was worth a try. She activated detection. The difference was night and day. No head-splitting agony, just a slight throb from processing information, easily handled by pain mitigation. This was what detection was supposed to feel like. The amount of information was overwhelming. Magic flow, material composition, air currents, everything streamed through her brain at once. It felt like glimpsing cosmic truth, understanding everything around her in a tiny space. The vast scope and grandeur of the world revealed itself. It was beautiful enough to make her cry, if spiders could cry. Skills leveled immediately. Arithmetic processing jumped to level 9. Parallel thinking reached level 7. Detection hit level 8. And a new skill appeared, divinity expansion. She'd examine that later. Right now, she wanted to savor this feeling. Detection gathered all available data on everything within her perception range. Even information she normally couldn't understand made sense to a certain extent. It was almost like omniscience. She turned detection off for a moment to collect herself. Should she keep it active all the time? It was so high performance, it might actually be distracting in battles. But she'd gotten used to appraisal's initial dizziness. She could adapt to this too. Decision made, detection stays on permanently. Arithmetic processing maxed out almost immediately and evolved into high-speed processing. Detection and parallel thinking continued leveling. Then something strange happened. A message appeared that wasn't a normal system notification. Upper Administrator D has accepted the request. A new skill was being constructed. Wisdom. She froze. An administrator had responded. They were watching. They'd created a skill specifically for her, in direct response to her complaints about not understanding things. The implications were terrifying, but also incredible. Wisdom was like powered-up appraisal and detection combined, but calling it that barely scratched the surface. She could see detailed information on everything. Her own weaknesses, fire, water, ice, light, her strengths, heresy, poison, dark, proficiency values for all skills down to the decimal point. She could even view the entire skill list without having skill points, which had never been possible before. The skill list revealed something shocking. An immortality skill existed. It cost 1 million points. 1 million. Completely, utterly unattainable. But knowing it existed at all changed her perspective on what was possible in this world. There was also an auto-mapping function that blew her mind. She could view maps of everywhere she'd been since birth. The labyrinth stretched out before her in her mind's eye, enormous corridors and chambers connecting in ways she'd never realized. The sheer scope was staggering. The Great Elro labyrinth was far, far larger than she'd ever imagined. Most importantly, wisdom came with a search function. Like a miniature search engine built into her brain, it would display explanations of anything related to the skill system. Type in a question about skills and detailed information appeared. Finally, after all this time grinding and guessing, she had an actual user manual. She immediately researched how magic worked, something that had eluded her since gaining her first magic skills. Magic required several carefully orchestrated steps. First, recognize magic power through magic power perception. You had to sense its existence before you could use it. Second, manipulate that power using magic power operation. Picture the magic power as a dense liquid, then will it to move as desired. The more complex the movement patterns, the better. Third, construct the appropriate rune. Each spell had its own unique set, like a magical blueprint. The rune formed automatically once you selected the spell, but the construction speed depended on your stats. Normally, magicians spent years training to get faster at this step. Finally, pour magic power through the completed rune like liquid through a pipe. The magic power flowed along the rune's pathways until it reached the end, where it manifested as a phenomenon affecting the physical world. Increasing the amount of magic power strengthened the spell. Increasing the speed shortened activation time. But the rune had to be sturdy enough to handle the load, or it could burst under pressure and misfire. More advanced magic had longer, more complicated runes, making accidents more likely. Thanks to height of occultism, which came bundled with perseverance and celestial power via wisdom, she could do all of this effortlessly. Operating magic power felt as easy as moving her body. Runes forged the instant she selected them, optimal and stable. Activating spells was as simple as pouring water into a glass. The contrast between theoretical complexity and her actual experience was absurd. What should have taken years of training came naturally, thanks to a single cheat skill. She tested Poison Shot first. A black sphere materialized and streaked forward almost instantaneously. Magic. She'd used actual magic. But it wasn't very powerful. Weaker than her deadly spider poison, even with her insane magic attack stat. Poison Shot generated its own poison rather than using hers, and the generated poison simply couldn't compete. Poison Touch was even worse, another suicide bomber technique that hurt her along with enemies. Shadow magic proved unimpressive. She couldn't test heretic magic without a target. That left abyss magic. Her heart pounded as she tried the level 1 spell, Hellgate. The rune began constructing, then slipped out of her control and fell apart. Even with height of occultism, she couldn't manage it. The construction was ridiculously difficult. If she couldn't use it with the best magic skill in existence, how could anyone in the world use abyss magic? And if level 1 was this hard, what insane effects did it have? What would the level 10 spell do? She couldn't give up. She was inexperienced with magic, that's all. Her cheat skills let her skip the practice that normal magic users went through. The answer was simple. Practice, which meant she needed a dedicated mind for it. Parallel minds had just leveled up to 2. Now she could have 3 separate minds operating simultaneously. Body brain would handle movement and combat. Information brain would assess situations. And the new magic brain would practice magic constantly, focusing on abyss magic. They were like a holy trinity working in perfect coordination. Hello, me number 3. Hello, don't worry, I heard everything. Now that I'm here, it'll be fine. With 3 minds active, she could move, think, and cast magic all at the same time. Her effectiveness in battle had just skyrocketed. Her middle stratum campaign was going remarkably well. She defeated tons of monsters, leveled up repeatedly, and her skills kept growing. Overeating finally reached level 10 and evolved into Gorge. Now she could stock HP and MP in addition to SP, without gaining weight. Instantaneous and Persistent maxed out too, evolving into Acceleration and Durability, respectively. They added multipliers to her stat growth whenever she leveled. Combined with Wisdom's effects, she now had bonuses on all her stats. Looking at her status, something seemed off. She was supposed to be a high-speed physical type, but her magic stats were through the roof. Had she become a magic specialist? Not really. Magic still wasn't as strong as deadly spider poison. That remained her trump card in serious fights, with magic serving as support. Still, she wanted to use her threads again. Being stuck in the middle stratum was frustrating. When she reached the upper stratum, she'd build a home and spend time on skill research. But what then? Administrators. Skills. If she wanted to know more, she'd need to ask someone with information. The problem was obvious. She couldn't communicate with anyone. She was a monster who couldn't talk. Wisdom provided one answer, an evolution tree showing possible future forms. She'd been choosing poison types and rare species instinctively, including her current Zoa form. But further down the evolutionary path was something interesting. Arachne. a monster with a spider's lower body and a human's upper body. It would be a long evolution chain to get there. But if she had a human upper body, she could probably talk. She'd still be a monster, so humans might not be willing to communicate. But having even half a human body would be huge. She'd gotten used to being a spider, sure, but what healthy former human girl wanted to spend the rest of her life this way? If she had the opportunity to become partially human, of course she'd take it. That was far in the future, though. First, she had to escape the middle stratum. One step at a time. Back at the academy, Shun faced a more immediate problem. The exploration class had seemed like a good opportunity, hiking a small mountain near the school with only 12 first years. Unfortunately, Sue, Katya, and Yuri were on different teams. Even worse, Shun was stuck with Hugo. Their party consisted of Shun, Hugo, Miss Oka, and Parton, a knight's son, led by Professor Ariza. The professor seemed annoyed to have both Shun and Hugo in his group. Miss Oka was surprisingly present, probably to keep Hugo from doing something stupid. The exploration went smoothly at first. They reached the campsite without incident. While Parton and Shun set up camp, Hugo bickered with Ms. Oka. They had free time to explore the area independently, staying within earshot. Shun went off to find herbs. Then he heard swords clashing where Parton had gone. Hugo appeared, blocking his path. "I've been waiting for this opportunity," Hugo said, his eyes gleaming with malice and something worse, absolute certainty. Shun's blood ran cold. "What are you doing? What does it look like? I'm going to kill you." Hugo's voice was calm, matter of fact. "Then I'll release some monsters to cover it up. An unfortunate accident during exploration class. The prince, tragically killed by monsters. The kingdom will mourn. I'll comfort Sue, become the hero who tried to save you but failed." "You're insane." "Insane?" Hugo laughed. "No, I'm simply recognizing reality. This world exists for me, Shun. It's a gift from God, a chance to be who I was always meant to be. And you're just an obstacle. Always were, even back in Japan. Always in the spotlight, always the one everyone looked up to. Hugo, please, don't beg. It's pathetic." Hugo drew his sword. Flames erupted along its length, crackling with barely contained power. "I've been hoarding skill points for this moment. Spent them all. Fire enhancement, weapon enhancement, physical enhancement. I'm stronger than you now. Stronger than I ever was." He attacked. The speed was terrifying. Shun barely got his own sword up in time. The clang of metal rang through the forest. Heat washed over him from Hugo's flaming blade. He stumbled backward, mind racing. Hugo had planned this. Hoarded skill points while everyone else spent theirs learning. Prepared monsters to release after the murder. Positioned his subordinates to create alibis. This wasn't a spontaneous act of rage. This was premeditated. And Hugo believed he'd get away with it, because this wasn't Japan, where forensics and investigations would catch him. This was a world where monsters killed people all the time, where accidents happened on exploration trips, where powerful nobles' sons could make problems disappear. Shun defended desperately, but Hugo pressed the advantage relentlessly. Fire magic joined the sword strikes, fireballs that forced Shun to dodge, cutting off escape routes. Hugo fought with the confidence of someone who'd already won. "You never understood," Hugo said between attacks. "This world was made for people like me. The strong dominate the weak. Skills reward effort. I worked for this power. What did you do? Born into royalty again, given everything on a silver platter. That's not." "Shut up!" A particularly vicious strike nearly took Shun's head off. "Die already!" Hugo prepared what looked like a finishing blow, fire gathering around his blade in an inferno. Shun's options had run out. He couldn't match Hugo's enhanced stats. Couldn't escape. Couldn't talk him down. Then wind magic blasted Hugo backward with such force he tumbled across the forest floor. Ms. Oka stepped between them. "That's enough, Hugo. Stay out of this. Teach. I arrested your subordinates and disposed of the monsters you prepared." Her voice was cold. "Your plan failed before it began." She cast a spell on Hugo. His stats plummeted. His skills vanished, revoked as punishment. "Reflect on your actions," she said. "You're fortunate I'm only taking your power, not your life." The exploration class was suspended. Hugo's conspirators were captured. Everyone focused on Hugo, the would-be murderer brought low. No one noticed the small monster that had followed them back to the academy, watching from the shadows with intelligent eyes. In the labyrinth depths, the spider continued her training. Magic brain practiced abyss magic relentlessly, slowly improving. Body brain moved through the middle stratum, hunting and leveling. Information brain coordinated everything, processing the flood of data from detection. She was growing stronger. Her stats climbed higher. Her skills became more refined. The path to Arachne stretched out before her in the evolution tree, distant but achievable. At the academy, Shun navigated social complexities, trying to figure out what to tell Sue, how to deal with Yuri's proselytizing, how to process Hugo's attempted murder. Everyone around him had changed. Only Katia remained constant, or so he hoped. Two reincarnated souls in vastly different circumstances. One human, one spider. One trying to maintain his humanity in a world of magic and politics. One trying to regain her humanity after becoming a monster. Both struggling to understand this world and their place in it. Both haunted by memories of Japan and the lives they'd left behind. Both wondering what the administrators wanted, what purpose they served, what it all meant. The word of God spoke to them in Japanese, guiding and informing, but neither understood why they'd been chosen, what they were supposed to do, or what would happen next. They could only move forward, level up, gain skills, grow stronger, survive, and hope that someday answers would come.